truly believe the Nintendo Switch 2 will be worth $450. Now I know when you compare it to the original Switch at $300, OLED at $350, and this, Switch 2 being $450, I know it's quite the leap in price, but when you talk about the different hardware components and software features and just all of the little things that go into a device like this, you quickly realize that it actually is worth that $450 price tag. And I want to get into some of the components here, starting with the LCD screen. And yeah, I know, everyone on the internet's saying, LCD, $450, all I'm getting is an LCD screen, why isn't it an OLED? Well, it's because OLEDs are kind of expensive. And quite frankly, almost no other handhelds that are comparable to the Switch 2 have an OLED screen, right? The Steam Deck OLED has one, and I'm trying to think of another one that does, but not for anywhere near that price point. And trust me, I also really wanted the Switch 2 to be an OLED screen. The Switch OLED was really nice. The Steam Deck OLED, I have one. The screen's awesome on it. But from what I'm seeing for this LCD screen, it actually really looks like it's going to be great and it'll be worth it. So let's talk about the features here, right? So it's a 7.9-inch LCD display. It's 1080p, up to 120 Hz refresh rate. And it supports VRR and HDR, which is a lot of features for a screen like this. Now, there's a bunch of people who got to either go to the press event or one of the public live events where you sign up and they kind of pick you from a lottery. They have first-hand experience playing a Switch 2. And just about everybody who's played it has said the screen looks amazing. The HDR kind of makes up for the difference between the LCD and the OLED panels. And the screen just looks so good that it no longer matter to them. It's not an OLED screen. It's good enough to where they're confident that it'll be worth it. And when you compare it to other devices, almost no other device has an LCD panel that's 1080p, 120 Hz, has HDR support, and VRR support. Now, 120 Hz isn't novel, it's not unprecedented, right? A lot of other ones have 120 Hz support. That's not super crazy. Almost none of them have HDR. A bunch of them do have VRR. But when you look into devices that have every single one of those things, the 1080p, VRR, HDR, and 120 Hz, there's about 2 other devices that have this. One is the Zotac Zone. That's almost twice as expensive at $800. And the other is the One X Player. That's $1,000. And those are also both LCD screens. You're not even getting an OLED in that. So comparably, the Switch 2 LCD screen actually has more features than the majority of any of the other PC handhelds that you could buy at way less the price. Now, the CPU and the GPU, that's something we don't know too much about. It's a custom chip that's made by NVIDIA, same as like the Switch one, but the Switch one was the Switch one used like an off-the-shelf NVIDIA mobile chip, the Tegra X1, I believe it was called. But this one is a custom chip made by NVIDIA just for the Switch 2. Now, it's a much more performant chip. It's a much more expensive chip. From what I heard, and this could be speculation, but it's somewhere between like $70 and $80 more expensive per chip, just for the processor, just for the CPU and GPU alone. These chips are going to be more expensive. They're going to be built on a newer process. They're going to have newer components, and they're going to have newer features, including things like DLSS, which is pretty much confirmed that the Switch 2 will be able to do, which is AI upscaling. Even without that, the people who have experienced the Switch 2 in these events, and Digital Foundry, who's gone over footage and like looked into all these things, they're pretty sure DLSS has not even been enabled in games yet, and we're already seeing games playing at 120 frames per second, which is crazy. From what we understand, this puts the Switch 2 somewhere between the Steam Deck OLED and the ROG Ally X, which doesn't, there are so many handhelds that are considerably more expensive or more powerful than that, but they are more expensive. So for $450, it beats out a device that is more expensive than it. So that's another thing that's really cool. Plus, it being ARM chip, it's more efficient than the PC, basically laptop chips that they're putting in these other handhelds. Just since we can only really speculate and only really guess on the power of the Switch 2, that's all I'll say about it. But the next thing I want to talk about is the storage. Instead of 32 gigabytes of storage, we now have 256 gigabytes of storage. This is one thing that I kind of wish they'd put maybe a little more effort into. It's not NVMe storage, it's UFS storage, so it's designed more for like mobile devices like phones or tablets. where it's better on power efficiency and less on performance, whereas NVMe has better performance. Although at the same time, it all depends on how it's implemented. UFS storage could still be really good and be efficient, so it's probably going to be better than the original Switch. So either way, it's an upgrade from the original Switch. You can upgrade that storage with micro SD express cards. Now you can't use regular micro SD cards. You can only use the express cards, which are more expensive, but they're much faster, so the performance will be better. That being said, you have all these different pieces of hardware in here. You have Wi-Fi 6, you have Bluetooth, obviously, because that's the way the controllers connect. And you have all these different components. You have the Joy-Con, the controllers that separate, they connect via magnets. That's been completely engineered. There's mouse mode in the Joy-Cons, so you can put the Joy-Con down its side and use it like a mouse. And in the games that support it, you just put it on its side and you just start using it. So there's software and hardware that automatically talk to each other, so you don't have to go into a menu and you don't have to select mouse mode. You immediately just put the Joy-Con down on its side, bam, you're in mouse mode. And those are things that have to be engineered software and hardware wise. That's expensive. The Joy-Cons even just connecting to the sides and charging and connecting to the system via a piece of hardware, that all has to be engineered. So the fact that they're selling the system with all these things that are custom engineered for $450 is kind of wild if you really think about it. That and they provide accessories in the box, right? So the Joy-Con can separate and be controllers. You can connect the Switch 2 to a dock that you get with the system that connects to your TV, and it plays on the TV, and you have a controller. You can plug the Joy-Con into a little grip, and now you have a full controller that comes with the system. Whereas if you bought a Steam Deck OLED connected to a docking station that you have to buy separately, and if you want to buy a good dock, you're going to spend like $50 or $60, right? Then you have to buy another controller because you can't play the Steam Deck. Well, you can use the controls right on it, but you would have to hold it. So you'd either have to have a cable that runs across your living room to the dock, or you'd have to be, if you're sitting at a desk like I am, it probably wouldn't be as bad. But with a Switch, you could sit across the living room. You have these wireless controllers that come with the system. It's built in. It's all engineered to work like that. And the fact that they give you a dock, which they're selling it at like $110. It's a dock has a fan in it. It outputs a 4K 60. Like, they're giving you all these things in the box. If they didn't give you that docking station, they could have probably charged you $400, but then you'd have to buy that dock. And even if they sold that at like $50, you're still paying $450. So at the end of the day, if you think about all the different things that go into the Switch 2, all the different features, all the different components that you get in that same box in just one package, I think it's totally worth it. And then if you get the Mario Kart bundle, you're getting a game too. That's $500. That is more expensive. But for $500, you get a system, a dock, a controller that separates and you can use as a wireless separate controller, and a game. And people are obviously not happy with the price, and I get it. Switch 1 was $300, which was way more palatable. It was way more easy to buy. Switch Lite was $200. That's such a good entry point for a whole console platform, and we don't have anything like that yet. So I totally understand. And with the US situation, with tariffs and all that, we still don't have a pre-order date or know if any price is going to be changing. At least at the time of recording this video, we were still up in the air for that. It's a separate thought for maybe a separate video that I may never make. But at the end of the day, when you look at what is provided to us in the system, all the features, all the functions, all the components, I really do think it is worth $450. And I will be buying it day one if I can. Hopefully I can. I'll be getting the Mario Kart bundle and playing Mario Kart with my wife. We love Mario Kart. So yeah, I truly believe it's worth it. And, if you really like this video, please, hit that like button. It really helps the channel because it tells YouTube that this was a great video and that more people should see it. And if you want to subscribe to the channel, if you really like the content that I make, you can click on my face to be over in the corner here. But otherwise, I'll see you in the next one.